Hey, tolerators. This is To All the Men I've Tolerated Before with Natalie Katona, your weekly look at everyday misogyny. Today, we are happy to have back with us our friend Julia Washington, who needs no introduction. She's here all the time. Julia is the owner of the literary-themed small business Prose and Glow, and is here to talk about how misogyny plays a role in being a small business owner, especially when you're a single woman who is running a business. Julia, thank you for always being here.
Thank you for having me. I feel like have been on literally for every kind of topic.
Yeah.
What don't I know?
What don't you know about misogyny?
What don't I know about misogyny? At this point, very little left to uncover.
I almost texted you and Alrenthia during the Super Bowl to be like, so we have to do a mini episode about the
Kendrick?
halftime show?
Yeah.
Say Drake? I just be walking around this house. Penelope hates a new trendy song coming to me because I just walk around this house and every time I see her, I'm like, say Drake, I hear you like him young. And she's like, why are you threatening me?
Penelope's like, I don't like anybody. Stop saying that to me.
Stop saying it. I don't like anybody, actually. Or I'm just like, they not like us. They not like us. And she's like, who's they? Oh, the men. Oh, the men. She's like, she's talking about the men again.
Yeah.
All right, Julia. I remembered while I was planning for this episode that a while back I had done an episode with my friend Marcia, and we had opened that episode talking about the state of work and why her and I had decided and had to come to terms with the fact that we have come to an age where unless you are in a really specified field, it does not make sense to have someone else be in charge of your paycheck anymore. And everyone feels like they have to be an entrepreneur. So you and I talk about that a lot. So I wanted to see if you had comments on that too.
Well, I feel like, oh man, please. I'm going to say it. I feel like when people say they're an entrepreneur, it's code for unemployed.
Well, yeah, Julia, which I guess technically I currently am employed, but I do believe that when men put it on the dating apps, it's like, oh, he doesn't have a job.
So like for me, it's like, you know, because I don't live somewhere where there's jobs abound.
Right.
And or what people would deem a good job. Our county is the second largest employer of residents. Like, so government entity is like the second largest employer in our region, if that gives you any indication. The largest employer doesn't really hire locally. So I mean they do, but also they don't, you know? It's like you gotta know someone. So I guess for me it's like it's hard.
Yeah.
I am too old to be a subordinate. I have too much experience to be a subordinate, actually. Like, and also nobody wanted to give me a job, so I just started my own, I guess.
And I think one of the things that we could also talk about is what you and I were talking about earlier, where it's like currently the job landscape is embarrassing. Like,
it's so sad and scary.
Employers aren't offering full-time positions with benefits that actually pay anything.
Because legally they have to post openings, but those openings, they might not care about having them filled. They might already be filled, but they're because of the EEOC. Like, there's so many things. Or, like, a friend of mine who works in recruiting, I said something about, like, oh, you know, Indeed is, like, it just feels so spammy and scammy. And she's like, it is. You know, so you're just like, you don't know what you're getting into. You want all of my personal information plus work history, and then you ghost me? But according to the jobs report, it's 3% unemployment? What?
What is happening?
Are you basing that off of who receives unemployment benefits that week? Is that where you're basing that on? Because that's not an accurate representation of who is unemployed / underemployed.
Correct. And I can't And I think what you touched on too is the rampant ageism in
Mhm.
the current job landscaping, because the landscaping, like it's a mowing company, but like
I
the
mean, it might as
landscape,
well
it
be.
might as well be. I can't get underemployed to save my life because they're like, that girl's smart and talented, and she will leave in 6 weeks, and we will have to do this all again. And my friends in HR will tell you that hiring people is expensive.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is. And like, even if I leave my master's degree off my resume, it doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter.
I could leave my BA off of my resume and it doesn't matter. They put you through a psych evaluation. Like, Target, why do you need to evaluate my psychological ability to handle this quiz? Because when the little old lady's mad that I have to unlock the cabinet to get her soap, that's how it is in California. I don't know how it is anywhere else. Um, what you should be testing is whether or not I'll yell back.
Well, and also I think that brings into part of decentering men also became decentering patriarchy, and it became decentering capitalism. And so part of the problem is like I'm just too neurospicy to not be good at lying to people anymore during interviews, because I assume that me being talented is an asset to
Well,
them.
that's what we were told.
That's what we were told. We were high
Yeah,
ability children.
yeah.
I
That's our
read it.
generation. That's
That's our,
literally our generation.
and instead, what we've learned is if school isn't the pipeline to prison, it sure is the pipeline to grueling clickety clackety work for no reason.
Which I also can't get.
Correct.
Like, I did not get a job in a warehouse at a certain box conglomerate that is taking over the world. They didn't even want me for that. So, like, that pipeline doesn't work for me. Like, I failed. Somehow I failed the pipeline.
Well, I know how I would have failed because I would have been wheezing and bent over and already being like, my arms are sore. I have weak ankles. What are we doing about this?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, truly, but it's like one of those things where it's like I can't even get like we talk about the education to prison pipeline, education to warehouse pipeline all the time, and I'm like, I can't even get on that train.
Correct. At this
Like,
point, give
I
me
can't even get in that pipeline.
at this point, I'm about to be violent so I can get a hot and a cot. Like I don't understand. Are we still allowed to
It's
say,
three hots and a cot,
oh,
actually.
3 hots and a cot? You know, I only eat once because of my rampant issues with food.
They're still making the food anyway. You might as well just eat it all. You might as well eat every meal. They're making it all anyway.
So, anyways, all of this made, and I'm not saying that it was like the political landscape and the fact that I guess we're not employable because we're too great.
I'm too brilliant.
But in the middle of this, you and I just started going, okay, so we'll just build something else. Something's got to get us TikTok ads. Something,
I gotta make money. I like to eat food. So does my dog, and I need a place to live.
and I need a place to live. So we started to do more creative solutions. Like I made some big life changes and decided that I'd go back to, I'm calling it going back to school because I sure as hell am paying to go to classes. They not, they,
Yes.
they're never going to get me a certificate, but
No, but they are going to get you a lot further than like,
correct.
Sitting in your house talking to Penelope only all day.
Only.
No offense to Penelope. I mean, she's a great cat.
Where is she even?
Exactly.
Exactly. But you were watercoloring up a storm, and then
Mhm.
I don't remember how we landed on candles, but we did. And let me tell you, as someone who bought the wrong scented lotion recently and had to text you in a panic to go, I thought it was going to smell like oatmeal, and it smells like I caught myself on fire. That I am, in fact, the campfire. Scents are a hard science that clearly I haven't mastered. So, how did you arrive to, I have to start a business from the ground up?
Well, it was actually because you and I had a conversation like 2 or 3 months after I got let go, and you were like, "You already are making cards. You should just like lean into it. I don't remember exactly what you said, but you were basically like, the gist is, the way I retell the story now, nearly 2 years later, is my friend was like, "Bitch, you already make cards. Just make more."
Julia has since told me, bitch, you've been making bracelets, make more. And I'm like, I can't do all the paperwork that you've done. I can't talk to as many government officials as you've talked. And Etsy is a broken little bitch of a site, and I cannot be her servant. And so I can make the bracelets and I guess peddle them on the corner, but I cannot do the things that you have done. I have executive dysfunctioning when it comes to that.
Well, I guess it helps that because I have worked for so many government entities, I was like, well, I kind of already know, like, baby steps, what to do. But, it was definitely like a sink or swim situation, Natalie, because you can only get a rejection letter so many times with all the experience and the education that I have. And I think I even texted you a screen grab of one of the rejections I got, which was literally like, "You have all the desirable skills. We're still choosing to pass and not interview you." I mean, and that actually is verbatim, because the way it was written, I was like, somebody in HR actually wrote this. I sent it to my family member who works in HR, and I was like, "This is the rejection I got," and they were like, "Unprofessional. That person, if they were on my team, fired." And I was like, "Okay, thank you for saying that, because that makes me feel better." Because reading that was so startling. Of like, no, we're still choosing not to interview you, even though you're like meeting every single
Well,
qualification.
it it's giving.
Like, don't fucking say the quiet part out loud.
It's giving. Someone tried to sue us for being qualified and not getting a job. So now we have to tell people, we're aware you're qualified. We still don't want you.
Yeah, which was like, okay, burn, like, sick burn, bro. So being of the generation that was told work really hard and it'll pay off, I was like, well, I'm just gonna listen to Natalie and lean into it. And then I was like, well, I can't just do cards, because cards are hit or miss. Like, I heard a lot of people say things like, well, who even sends cards? You'd be surprised. Hallmark is still in business for a reason, y'all. Like,
And it's not those faceless angels.
no. And same with like the section in Target. Like, they didn't get rid of it for a reason. Like, it's still profitable to an extent, right? And nobody was buying my artwork, so it was like, let's just put the artwork on the cards and go from there. And they started as like puns, right? Like plant puns and book puns, and then I did file all the appropriate paperwork so I could have a business license, which part of me feels like I still have some work to do. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation. I did do the paperwork, and then I was like, well, I'll just go and reach out to the Modesto Farmers Market and see, like, what do I need to do to be here? And you have to have a business license, you have to have business insurance, and then there was I think those were the two main things. And then I never considered business insurance because I'm a home-based business, like, so I applied for that, and it was really easy to just get a quote online and then be like, oh, actually, this is what you do. You can pay us this much money a month. And you're like, okay, cool, great, like, that's perfect. And then the market was like, we're excited because nobody here sells cards. I was like, cool. I also sell like other things too, but getting to the candle part of it all was, I think, because everything was literary themed from the beginning. So I was like, well, if I want a card and a candle feels like a really nice gift. Like, it's like, here, like, you can just one-stop shop it. And then the goal was always, because like every introverted girly who loves to read and hates people and loves tea, I dreamed of having a bookstore as well. But then I was like, well, do the cards, candles, the books will come. And the books are, I do surprise books now too. I don't have like a full stock of books because I pop up, so that's heavy. But it just was like, what would be cute? A gift shop. Do a gift shop. And that's kind of where it started. And man, they aren't lying about first couple years of business not making a lot of money. All those people who tell you they sold out right away, liars.
Lies.
All lies. You can skew. You know how easy it is to skew your numbers. That's what I think they've done.
Somebody's got to be laundering money.
Actually, I want to amend that a little bit. My very first event I hosted did sell out, and I was shocked. I cried. Like when the final ticket sold, I cried. I was like, I'm shocked
I'm
because
successful.
I can't believe. Yeah,
I've done it. I've made it. I
yeah,
am
yeah,
here.
yeah. Truly, but like I was reading all these stories about people who were like, "Oh yeah, I started at this farmer's market, and like my first day, everything sold out," and you're like, "Are you food?" Because I believe that about food.
Yeah, it's because they made 6 loaves of bread. Um,
Right.
I'm so hateful today and mostly every other day.
I mean,
Uh,
I'm in that camp right now too. I'm just having a hard time.
so when you go through that timeline, I want to be very clear that you can tell that a man who didn't want anyone else to succeed came up with this system because it costs so much for all of that paperwork. The paperwork is extensive. It's like going to the DMV, except for the rules are made up and the points don't matter. And you hit a pitfall with every new person that you talk to. And I'm like, well, my conspiracy brain is like, that's purposeful.
Because it is hard. So, like, originally, so I went to the city and I was like, what do I need? And they're like, you need a business license. I was like, right, I know that, but like, what do you need from me? Because this is what I'm doing. And they're like, well, you need a classification. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know how to determine that. I don't know what those are. So that took half a day because then I had to do the paperwork. But then also on your business license, you can't use a PO box. But I'm a home based business,
Yeah.
so it's like, well, that feels unsafe, you know. And then if you want to have like my business name is Pros and Glow, that's a different department. That's a different government institution. I had to go to the county for that, and the county's like, so then that's more money, right? And then the county's like, well, where do you reside? Do you have whatever, blah, 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 blah. If you type in anything wrong,
Done.
you turn it again. So it's like you have to do it right the first time. And then that's all process because where in our county where you have to do that is also where you need to get like your certified birth certificate or a marriage certificate or like it's also where you register to vote. Like it's the clerk recorder's office. They keep record of literally everything. So two separate institutions. So then, but you need, it's called a fictitious business license. You're doing business as license or permit. So then you need that so you can open your business account. But then when I tried to open my business account, I called where I do my personal banking, my personal banking. I called the call center because I'm like, I need to know what I need to bring in. And the person on the other line was like, okay, hold on, I have a list. Great. She tells me what's on the list. It's like, cool. She tells me it's going to be $30 to open the bank account. It's like, great. And then she's like, let me schedule an appointment with you with one of our business banking people. Do you want to do it over the phone or do you want to come in? I was like, I'd love to do it over the phone because I don't want to come in until I absolutely have to. And she's like, fine. So she schedules the appointment. So then I'm on the phone with that guy and he's like, how did you get this appointment? And I was like, what do you mean, how did I get this appointment? Didn't the system fucking tell you that the call center set this up?
Like, I had that same story with my sister had the new baby because, like, I was like, isn't all the medical stuff in the computer? Like, you're in a network.
You're in a network.
Type my nephew's name up and tell me what he has or what he doesn't have.
Right. So then I talked to the guy. He basically tells me the exact same thing the gal told me in the call center. It's like, cool. He's like, let's schedule you an appointment to come in to open if you're ready. And it's like, perfect. I said, and it was a Thursday. And I said, I have farmer's market on Thursday, so I can be there anywhere between 1:10 and 1:30. And they're like, great. I show up with everything they told me to have, which is my DBA and $30 and my ID. The woman I'm supposed to meet with is at lunch because she scheduled her lunch from 12:30 to 1:30, even though I said I can be there anywhere between 1:10 and 1:30. So nobody told me that they made the appointment for 1:30. Okay. Then I get there and they're like, well, where's your business license? And I was like, nobody told me I needed that. They said, $30, my ID, and my DBA. And they were like, no, you were told wrong. Who did you talk to? And I said, well, the call center, and then someone from the business department, the business banking department. Oh, that's the call center. Like, they don't do this. Why would they know that? You were saying out loud that the people who are the front line for customer service have the wrong information? Are you fucking kidding me? So then they're like, well, she won't be back from lunch until 1:30, and we have to get authorization to start your account without having a business license. But I have my DBA. It literally has all the same fucking information, except it has the county seal instead of the city seal. Okay, so then I was like, you know what? I don't want to wait. I'm tired. I want to go home. And I had an event that night. It's like, I'm tired and I want to go home, and I'll just come back another day. I can come back on a Friday because that's my day off from my regular job. And like, oh no, Fridays were really busy. Like, it's better if you come Monday through Thursday. I didn't know this was about you. I thought this was about me. And they told me, oh, you need $130 to open up an account. I'm sorry, what? I was told 30, so that's what I brought with me. No, it's 100. It's 130. So 100 to go in the savings and 30 to go into the business checking. Nobody said anything about a savings account.
I have to open up a whole ass savings account?
Like, what?
And
this is insane. This is the most insane. And like, everyone right now is like saying things like, take your money out of big banks and put it in a local credit union. Well, my local credit union doesn't know what the fuck it's doing.
You heard it here first. Julia is pro big bank.
No, I'm not. That's not what I'm saying. I did find a local bank that's not a credit union, but it is an FDIC insured bank, and they're literally only in my area code.
Yeah.
So it's like the same thing. It's local.
It's the same thing. Well, so that's nonsense.
So that's nonsense, yes.
Because, as you know, and this is why no one will ever be able to buy my bracelets unless you walk up to me and offer me cash money. As soon as something is more than 2 steps, I'm done. Because we are in the year of our Lord 2025. People have told me that this is an ignorant statement, but I believe that we should be able to call our vote in for the president like it was American Idol. I should be able to vote online. I should be able to open business accounts online. I should be able to do everything from bed. Bed is where I want to be. Bed is where I love. The fact that you had to go to upwards 4 places and talk to 18 different people, it's ableist. It opens you up to sexism and racism because we live in America.
Well, and the thing is like, oh, why should I bank with you if you're literally saying, well, the call center isn't the bank, isn't the business department, so they won't know. I'm sorry, if that's the way you're going to talk about another department in your institution, I'm good.
I'm good. I am good.
Like, who do you think you are?
So the theme of this episode is truly that, like, small businesses deserve your time and your cash because literally they are operating in an economy that is not built for them. Mm-hmm. Because something else that we have talked about is people's impatience now that the big bad man who uses his child as a shield in a very pale big house has made 2-day free shipping a thing because he can afford it.
And I'm going to tell you what, shipping is so expensive. And like, when small businesses offer free shipping, they're eating that cost. In November 23 alone, I spent $2,300 on shipping.
That's a month.
That's 1 month. And there's just no way that I can offer free shipping. And a friend of mine was like, is there a way you can do it if it's over $100? And I was like, no, because that's heavier.
Yeah. Because shipping is based on weight.
Yes.
And it's a bigger box. I think that people like forget that it's not that you're storing up your Amazon boxes to then use as your small business boxes. Like, I realize that when I sign up for a Secret Santa, I go, oh my God, where's my Amazon box? Because there's always one laying around. Mm-hmm. And then I cover up all of my information and I doodle all over it so it's unrecognizable, and then I send it to a loved one.
Yeah, yeah.
But you're not doing that because that would look poorly on you.
Yeah, because people expect you to have branded boxes or to have a really nice presentation. And I would love to be in a position where all my boxes are branded and the tape is branded and we're using really nice tissue paper and like everything is like perfect and beautiful when you open up. That's the kind of shit you can do when daddy invests in your business. That's the kind of shit you can do when someone says, here's, a couple of grand, maybe 50, maybe 100, and like go ahead and start your business. Like, that is not the shit you do when you're like, I'm unemployed and I would like to continue living in a house. Because it's like, there's so many tiny little things that you don't think about, like collecting sales tax. You have to keep that separate because you have to pay that to your state. And because I have an e-commerce site, if somebody from a different state buys something from me and it collects sales tax, then I have to pay that state. So it's like little things like that. So like, or like, shipping policies. Currently on my website, it says, no refunds. Shipments go out the Friday after you order. But if you order Friday morning, there's no guarantee it's going out same day because I have a part-time job that keeps me underemployed, which is fine. I don't want to work for them full-time anyway. I did that once. It was really hard. My emotional state can't take it. I actually prefer the emotional state I'm in now versus the one I was in when I worked for them full-time. Neither is good.
Neither is good.
In this current moment. But Friday is my only day off for my part-time job. So that's why stuff gets shipped on Fridays. But then I did something stupid like, I didn't realize I ran out of packing tape. So everything's gonna have to wait until I can go out and get packing tape. Because it's so hard because I'm not spending my money on, like, since November, I have reduced my use of a certain service that also has a bunch of trees on a different continent, picking up what I'm putting down. And so because of that, now I have to physically go into like an office supply store or order it online and have it same day pickup, right? Like, so like I can't just, because I'm trying to be ethical about my business because I no longer want to be like my shipping boxes. Because when I first started in 23, I'd get my shipping boxes off of Amazon. It cost me a very little amount of money comparatively. And some small businesses have to do that in order to keep their costs in a space where they're charging people, $50 for something tiny.
Yeah. Yes.
But I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to give that man any more of my money.
I know, because he's so ugly. This is a tangent.
Okay.
He was recently at the White House on camera for whatever reason, and then his shield boy shushed the president. That was the moment that I realized I had never watched him speak out loud, and boy, was that a trip for me. I go, that's what he sounds like, and that's the way his mouth moves when he talks. Yeah.
That's the other part of it too. Like if you're trying to, well, back to the whole like sourcing things ethically, it's like we no longer have a system where doing the right and ethical thing is the first and easiest choice. I don't know if that system ever existed, actually.
Oh, it never existed because I don't know if you watched the Super Bowl. Well, you did because we talked about it in the intro. But Kendrick...
I just watched the halftime show.
Well, yeah. Kendrick let me know that this country was built on slave labor, and that's not ethical. So
that's absolutely, yeah, you're right. Yeah, so none of it is ethical. And it's hard. So like the other day I was at an event at the local independent bookstore who has become a partner of mine. We host events together and they carry some of my product.
Very cute. Have been.
Yes.
Yes.
They somebody placed an order. Somebody did an order through them, and 2 days later called and said, "Is my order in yet?"
No.
And they very politely had to be like, "It's not. It's on its way. We will call you when it's in." Because what used to be a place where people lived and it created oxygen for our planet is now warehouses ruined us and our expectations of what business should be.
Yeah. Yeah. I This is probably also a stupid tangent. I remember being a kid and being at my grandma's house, and the like local deli was a family owned deli, and it was walking distance from my grandma's house. So when my grandma was irritated at us kids, she'd be like, "That's it, we're going for a walk." And we'd end up at the deli and we get chicken salad and ham salad for lunch. And we knew the guy by name and he knew us all by name. And and am I a person who orders DoorDash every time I'm in a food panic? Yeah. I'm not walking to a deli or getting in a car to go to Taco Bell. I'm in a panic mode. But I feel like that's also such a statement on where we're at as a community hive mindset too, because it's like, I don't want to get to know the person who is, I fully say, drop that at my door and do not look at me. I don't want to look at you. Do not look at me.
Well, here's the thing. Having been a person who worked in public safety, a lot of people who work in those jobs, because they, like us, couldn't get jobs in other spaces,
Yes.
but for different reasons.
Yeah, correct. Also, I'm not always public facing. Like,
yeah, and there's that. I mean, not everyone who works for those services is. I should preface that. In the region in which I live,
yes,
is a high number. I don't have my real name on any of those apps.
Oh, that's smart.
I have men's names.
Oh, that's cuter. All right, maybe I'll change all my apps over. Probably not. That sounds like a step. But what I'm saying is like, okay, so we take Tater Tot to Longhorn a lot, right? Because he likes the bread and he's like a celebrity there. Like he loves to people watch and he's cute. So people always stop to say hi because he's yelling, "Hi, bye, hello." Yeah, he's very fucking cute. However, we have one waitress who works at Longhorn and another restaurant that's in that same plaza. And she's like my new favorite person in the world because she's complimented my hoodie twice and she's nice to my nephew. And we see her at both restaurants.
Nice.
So it's like, that's the fact. I used to love the people, my waitresses and waiters at my favorite sushi place. There used to be a time before COVID where I actually enjoyed being a member of my community.
Yeah.
Now I feel like I have to keep a bat in my car because I don't know how you all voted in this very red county.
Make sure there's a glove in your car too.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Going to play softball.
And so it's one of those things where it's like, it's the design of white men to be constantly complaining that no one's making enough money.
Mm-hmm.
And then also making it completely, it's just like gaslighting on a mass scale that any of us are going to make money.
It's like people telling me, "Oh, that's too expensive." And then in the same breath, I have business coaches being like, "You need to be charging more." And I'm like, "No, I've done the market research. No one's going to pay $20 for a hand-painted card. Trust me, I've tried. Come and sit with me at the farmer's market 4 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
And listen to all the different things that I have to hear from people. Oh, it's $5 because I recently raised my printed card prices from $5 to $6.50. And even people, when I was charging $5, was like, that's too much money. And you're like, well, the person before you paid it and they bought 10 cards. So bye, or like the hand painted cards. I charge 10 for the big ones and 8 for the little ones. And people will pick it up and be like, it's too much money. And I'm like, yes, go spend the same amount at Hallmark. And then that person's just going to throw it away. This is a hand painted card. That's not getting thrown away.
Yeah, I'd love to know where they're getting their stationery because you can't leave Target with a bag and a card for less than $15.
Easily. I mean, when I was doing like pricing research, it was like, oh, everyone's charging $7.95. Like, I can charge $5 for a printed card because a card the same size is $7.95 at Target.
Mm-hmm.
So then I didn't feel bad when I jumped my price to $6.50, but people still get weird about it. And I did a loan readiness class recently, and the guy was like, "You need to be charging $20 for your big cards." And I literally just like It's like, don't open your mouth. You already said something else that made him kind of freak out because, you know, business world doesn't understand neurospicy. No one's paying $20 for a hand-painted card. That is the dumbest piece of advice that I received this year. And I receive a lot of dumb advice, but that was the stupidest piece of advice I've heard this year.
Well, because, and I guess we'll arrive to it now, there's a lot of privilege that goes into the buy small mindset and ethically shopping. And it is the privileged class who is kind of running that community. I almost said ruining, running that community. And also purchasing from that community. And if I know anything about the privileged class, which I get to, you know, float in and out of depending on how different people feel about me that day, I know that they don't value anything. They don't value anything except for feeling right. And they like got it good. So they're looking at your 650 card and me like, who cares? And it's so shitty because I remember being like a teenager and in my early 20s and whatever. And this was when I hated myself and didn't think I was talented. So every time I came close to a talented person, and I still very much am like this, in awe. Oh my God, you did this. You made this. You sung this. And we're starting to lose that. And I know it's because we're all grinding 48 hours a day. I'm usually working on 3 things at one time, mostly because of the ADHD, but also like the late stages of capitalism are stressful. You feel like you cannot get off of it.
Right. And yep. And the thing, so, okay. I think what might have sparked us having this conversation way back when is I went to a Businesswomen Symposium.
You did.
And the 2 main keynote speakers, both married, both had husbands who had decent paying jobs that allowed them the space to fuck off and find out if they can make a business. So I'm sitting there having had, because it was September, so I'm coming off of the worst month in my business in that calendar year. And I'm like questioning everything of like, why is this so fucking hard? Because everyone talks about how hard it is, but then they also have like a counter to that of like, but then I had the, you know, blah, blah, and I worked really hard and it paid off. And you're like, and sure, that can take 3 to 5 years. I get it. The data supports that. But it was like, no one said you could have months where you're going to be like, I'm not going to make it. This is so fucking hard. I have to pay my light bill. I have to pay my food bill. I have to stay alive. And, you know, I need people to buy my shit to do that. So I was so bitter and angry by the end of that symposium because literally every business owner I know who is a woman has a partner, whether they're married or not. But the point is the same, is there's somebody else carrying the biggest load, which is paying the rent, paying the mortgage, paying the utilities, making sure everyone has health insurance. And I know that this is what I'm going to say next is sort of the antithesis of what your podcast is. When you have a partner, usually male, or not usually, sometimes male, who is making more money because they are male, that's still helping the household. Because yes, it's shitty they aren't doing other things if they aren't doing other things, but the burden of having to worry about how's my light bill going to get paid, how's my rent going to get paid, how is any of this stuff so I can fucking exist going to get paid if I don't have sales this week is not there. So you can afford to have a week where you have no sales when your partner is paying for everything. And I understand that creates a whole other situation, right? Like there's other equity issues within that dynamic. And I understand that. I don't understand that because I'm not in that situation, because my entire adult life has been just me making sure my kid stays alive, I stay alive, my dog stays alive. And heaven forbid if my car breaks down, because that's my backup plan, right? Like, I'm living out of that if this doesn't work, right? And so I'm sitting in this room with all of these empowered women. Everyone at my table is fucking married or is divorced. So, like, at some point, right? So I'm just sitting there and I'm just like, I hate this. Show me a fucking woman who didn't have a partner or daddy's money to start their fucking business. Where are the women who started their businesses out of desperation because society said, go get educated? We got educated, and then they said, just kidding, we're not going to give you a fucking job anymore.
And we took away DEI.
So I'm raging to you in a voice note because I was like, I can't fucking put up with this bullshit. This women empowerment bullshit. Fuck you. You all have partners. You could run the risk.
Girl boss culture is a privilege, and it's why we've started to make fun of it in turn.
I'm also clearly very still irritated, and that was back in September.
Well, and I know that you just said that was like the antithesis to my podcast, but it isn't. And this is why. You and I grew up with fairly similar and fairly different challenges. But money-wise, we were probably usually mostly on the okay side of it as kids.
Yeah.
That's fair?
Yeah.
In my home growing up, my mother's job was always an accessory income. I don't even know if that's a term. Did I just coin that? It's a shitty term, but I feel like part of the patriarchy and part of
the fun money.
It's the fun money. I think part of what the patriarchy has done in not only disenfranchising the work and labor of women by not paying us is also in the language that we talk about women's work. Oh, honey, you wanted to own a business because you're a bored white lady whose kids have gone to school? Sure, honey, I'll buy you some beads from Michael's. Let's see what we can do with this. And it's like, because of capitalism, instead of just like bored white ladies getting to like be at their kids' school causing a ruckus for the administration or like pretending to care about dolphins and other charities, they now have Etsy stores. And again, that's an overgeneralization because it's the way that we talk about women's work. So it's like, Julia, why would you go to a women's business-owned symposium and be the only income for your household? That is simply never a thing because we're supposed to be married and with child and pregnant all the time and moving in and out of work and being accessory incomes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's really frustrating because when you no longer have to carry the burden of how your basic needs are going to get met, you have so much space to focus on everything else. And I don't have that luxury. I did recently take on a bookkeeper because it turns out I'm real bad in that department. No matter how hard I tried, I just was still like, it's just like the business doesn't look profitable on paper. Is it me? Am I doing the math wrong? Am I not understanding how I'm supposed to be doing this? So I found somebody who is at a reasonable price. And when I looked at my income reports over the course of the years, like I can realistically afford this if I'm mindful about how I'm spending my money, which I thought I was being mindful about spending my money anyway. It's just expensive. Insurance is expensive. Like, you pay me for a product. You're not just paying for that product. You're also paying for my insurance. You're also paying for ship, like all the things, everything on the back end. And so, that has been a nice respite, but it doesn't change the fact that I still have to worry about when does rent clear? When does car insurance clear? Okay, so, my dog got sick, so now I have to worry about where the money's going to come from. Like, what am I not paying so I can get my dog's meds? Like, you know what I mean? So, like, my business account isn't suffering because that's separate money, but I still have to figure out, right? Like, I still pay my phone bill from business expenses because my phone is the fucking cash register. or like other things too. I'm just like, and my car, there's just so many things. And then because of the summer that I had, as you know, we had a family health crisis. I came home and didn't have somebody else to help after a 6 hour commute, really, because 3 hours there, 3 hours back, to the hospital where my family member was. So I would come home after commuting and then have to do everything, business, personal, all of it. So it was literally like, oh, I'm going to die. This is so overwhelming.
And well, and I think number one, I think it, and I know because I'm ignorant about money and math and all of it. I think it's so stupid that our money is never our money, so we have to like tie it into a bunch of different things to like prove that we have it. Like you can't. And again, it's because you have to support your own business, but also because of like laws and taxes and whatnot. Every cent and dollar that you either earn, spend, or save has to be accounted for.
Right, because if I take money without accounting for it, it's embezzlement.
Yeah.
Even though, and like, I understand that on a corporate level, that's shitty. Like, we've seen musicians who've had financial people embezzle from them, and that's shitty. But in this instance, I'm like, if I'm hungry and I worked all day, I need to buy myself food. Like,
Correct. And if you sniffed a candle while you were ordering your DoorDash, that's a business dinner because you were researching.
But it's like the rules are so dumb, and they're different if you're a sole proprietor versus an S corp versus an LLC versus an LLC partnership. Like, there's so many things that are so confusing, and like LLCs aren't the same in every state. So like, it's only $80 to become an LLC in California, but then like immediately within like so many days you have to pay your LLC bill, and I'm just like, I can't afford that. You will literally clear out my bank account after I do, like, so it's like, so I have a candle, give me a business loan or give me a rich husband. I'd rather the business loan. But now with the state of the financial institutions, because of all the shit that's going on, I'm like, maybe the rich husband is a better idea. I don't know. But it's one of those situations where I'm just like, just give me fucking money to launch this business. The trajectory is there. The projections are good. It's just getting to the point where it's profitable is very, very taxing.
And now we have these 4 idiots who are also criminals, literally making all of the choices for how this will go down for the next 4 years to our lifetime. and and it's scary because they don't have to follow any of the rules. Like we know that these men have embezzled and are criminals and all of it. We know that they have money that we'll never even comprehend in just like numberless bank accounts on islands I wouldn't be able to point
honestly,
to on a map.
the financial institutions would have to collapse. That's the only way that they would never have like there's so much money that they have money for millennia. And that's
still
disgusting.
want more. None of us know why. and so they don't have to follow any of those rules. Like they don't have to worry about whether or not their Taco Bell is embezzlement because they don't care, because they can just hire teams of lawyers to prove to you that it wasn't. And I think the best thing that we could start doing during the next 4 years to the rest of our lives, because who knows what's going to happen, is start questioning, like, why do we let 3 very unattractive men hold our feet to the fire every day? Like, what are we starting to do to make sure that, like, regulations actually change? Special education is actually still going to be a thing. Because I guess no one understood what the Department of Education did. And everyone just went, I want that place to burn because Common Core math is hard. And I was like, I get it. It is. I had to teach it, and I taught it like a reading lesson. And I tried to tell you all, if you learn the vocab, it actually makes it very easy. And no one listened to me because no one reads in this country either. So,
well, and what's frustrating is, this whole this idea, not this whole concept. What's happening is all these tax credits for the 1% and corporations and what have you. We're seeing more and more people come to platforms saying like, I have a tax bill for the first time since I've been filing taxes. And it's like, right. Because he said that's what he was going to do. Remember?
Right.
Am I the only one that heard that? When Kamala was running her campaign and she kept talking about, strengthening the middle class and helping small businesses and doing a small business credit, a friend of mine who works for the city, specifically with a certain type of small business, we were talking about that. And I said, tax credits are great, but give me the fucking money now because
give it up front.
Because a tax credit means that I can claim it later. But if I don't have the money to do it now, it's going to be a long time, right? So like, just give me 50 grand so I can make this work. I will spin it into profitability in 2 years. Okay. Like I promise you, my parties sell out. My events sell out. Launching product takes a little bit more work. It takes a lot of work actually. So, it's frustrating. And then somebody else in the conversation was like, well, that's very Republican of you. And I said, no, it's not Republican. This is not a Republican or Democrat issue. This is do we want a thriving economy of small business issue? It's nothing to do with what fucking color you identify with. Because I'm not saying the government shouldn't, you know what I mean? It's like, if the government wants to give me 50 grand interest free and I'll pay it, I'll make my business profitable and start paying it back. Like, sign me up. But that's not how it works. You want to give me a fucking credit. It's just like the child tax credit. You want to give me a tax credit for keeping a child alive. But because I'm filing it with my annual taxes, I may not actually see the full amount of that credit. It just reduces how much I have to pay, or because there was one year where I got the child tax credit, but because of some other things, like I ended up not even getting that back. It just reduced how much I was going to get back, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense. But I'm just like, just give me the fucking money up front. Give me the fucking money up front. I'll confirm that I still have that child full time. Just like, and then again, bing, bing, boom, call it good.
Right. It's just gaslighting on a mass scale. So I wanted to see if there was anything else you wanted to hit on and whether or not it had anything else to do with being a single woman, or was that part enough for you? Because that was the main goal of this episode.
Okay, so I do actually want to say one more thing. I don't think that there is enough representation. I don't want to say representation. I don't think there's enough support. Like, I know that we have to have like all these different like this whole concept when you have kids and don't have kids, or when you're married and when you're not married. It can become a heated conversation. But I think in terms of starting a business, it's very different, because what you have in your toolbox when you get started can really determine what kind of outcome you have. So like right now, I'm very lucky that I'm renting from a family member, because if in that month I have to say, pay a little less rent, they're not going to evict me, which is my current privilege. With that said, there could be a day, it could be tomorrow, it could be in 6 months, where this family member is no longer in a position to rent to me, and I'm still trying to get my business off the ground, where I'm going to have to pay full rent, right? So that's my privilege. So I have a family member who's helping me out right now, which is my privilege. Very different from partner, very different from, whatever. So my point, here's my point. There needs to be some sort of support system for single women who want to start businesses, because the system is not designed for us to start a business. We don't have the same purchasing power when it comes, or borrowing power, rather. We don't have the same borrowing power. We don't have the same access to information. It was so hard. Even when I did reach out to the Small Development Center and said, here's what I am trying to do, it still took them a minute to figure out what coach to put me with. And even then, that still took a couple of months to narrow down the kind of work we needed to be doing and what direction I needed to go in terms of filing paperwork and, don't do that, do this kind of shit. So there needs to be a class that support system that's like, so you need to start a business because you don't want to sit around and you're not lazy and no one's giving you a job. Mm-hmm. And truly, anybody could take it. But the people who don't have a financial support system, access to resources, it's just like buying a house. When people are like, oh, just ask your parents for the down payment. Who the fuck are your parents that you can do that? You know what I mean? It's kind of the same. It's like you have to be in a very privileged position in order to do the things that they tell us makes America great. Owning a home, going to college, starting a business.
Right. And it was supposed to be for all of us, is the thing. And I think my biggest lesson is that, you know, I think it's like always centered around that idea of, well, why is it so hard? Because we love to like scream it at the wind. Like, why is this so hard? And it's like, but there are actual reasons. And there are actual reasons that were put into place by elected officials that people voted for. And then those people were in the pockets of people we did not vote for. And they didn't even have the like audacity or the common sense to lie to us. They said to your face what they were going to do, and then you voted anyways because you were like, maybe I hate people who don't look like me. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I do.
Maybe I do. Because the whole thing, the bottom line is if I'm not supposed to be paying myself yet because we're not profitable enough yet for me to pay myself, then there needs to be a low-cost program where I can come in and say, listen, my financials, not great. My personal finances, not super great because I've been unemployed and I'm, or because of whatever reasons, but I have this solid business plan and I have this solid business that it has a really great trajectory. Please, please, please let me borrow $50,000 at zero interest so that way I can get this off the ground and start paying you back, and I can still keep my house, feed my car, feed my kid, feed me, feed my car, feed my dog, because that would make a huge difference. But instead, it's, okay, we can give you a low rate of, I don't know, 7.5%.
Yeah.
Or, but here's the thing, Natalie, if you're the financial institution who's letting me borrow the money, it's going to be sitting in my bank account, in your bank anyway. So you're making money off of me having it sit in your fucking bank anyway.
Right. And it's all just numbers on our phone. Like, I cannot ever stress that enough.
Exactly. Because if I tried to pull out $50,000, you're going to freak out because you don't have enough money to do that in your institution. Anyway, that's my rant.
It's not even a rant because, like, the whole purpose of this podcast is to talk about why things are hard and to be honest about why things are hard. And things are hard because we tolerate men continuing to build systems that do not work for anyone who is not them. And by men, I mean largely white men, white educated men, if we really want to get into it. However, they uneducate us and they undereducate us on purpose. The things I saw while I was teaching, the things I've seen in education since, the things I remember going through in education where I'm like, why is it that I left fourth grade reading at a collegiate reading? Like, natural ability is great, but also I was taught well. And teachers were exhausted, but they were a little less exhausted than what I'm currently seeing now. And they had to physically do the math to figure out if I had a B+ or an A-. And I would have faked it. Like, I would have faked the math.
I can't math. That's why I hired a bookkeeper. But you're right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, because it's like these systems don't need to be super hard, but they're hard because they're keeping out people. They're keeping out a very specific group of people that they're not going to say it. Well, actually, they are saying it out loud now, but they weren't saying it out loud 10 years ago.
Yeah. And the thing of it is, too, is like small business or big business. Big business is also based off of people, is also built on people making $11 an hour.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's the thing, because every time minimum wage goes up, small businesses will say things like, well, we have to raise our prices then. And I'm like, I don't know I don't actually think that you have to. And there's economists that say that you don't. You just need to anyway, that's not the point. But the point is like, you have to weather so many things, right? Like a ton of people did no by January. A lot of people are participating in no by 2025.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, that means corporations. They're giving up Targets, they're giving up the Walmarts, they're giving up the Amazons. The hurdle is that because people are saying things like no by 2025, there is no clarification of like, well, what about small business? Because if you don't buy from small business, you know what else goes away and weakens your community? Not having small business.
Right. So would you say that your network of single women but business owners that also have grants and government money available to them would be your manifestation?
I mean, that definitely works. I think my manifestation is that more people, I guess as much as I'm screaming about like, give me money, let me have the money. I think what I actually truly want is for more people to understand the value of having small business in communities and what it actually does to strengthen the community.
Well, because I think also I think our biggest problem with capitalism isn't even that you and I aren't making money, it's that people aren't happy.
Right.
I was asked yesterday, why do you do that job if it does not matter to you? Because I am very aware that the work that I do for money does not matter to me. And I said, because we're all clickety clacketing away for these points to get pizza. I have to put in enough clickety clackety hours to get my points for pizza.
Did you see the backlash about Joann's? Like this woman on TikTok was like, "Oh, are you looking for Joann's is closing, but you should be supporting a local textile fabric store anyway." Da, da, da. And like everyone ate her up in the comments because it was like, yeah, Joann's a corporation, and like it sucks that like corporation's bad. They also employ thousands of people. So now that they're closing 500 stores, I mean, if each store employed 10 people,
yeah, that's 500,000 people.
That is a lot of people unemployed in the community who are now in the position that you and I are in, which are we're either unemployed or underemployed. So, like, whether or not you want to be pro Joann's, it's still local people working in those businesses.
Right. And so I think that's what it is. I would love it if we actually were a country that actually believed in opportunity. Mm-hmm. Because I keep hearing that we are. And I'm not seeing a lot of opportunity. And I'm definitely not seeing a lot of opportunity for talented, creative people that isn't built off of their own sweat and tears and credit scores.
Right. I guess during COVID, they loosened the credit score number a little bit to get a business loan. And I was like, great. Like, that actually doesn't make me feel any better. But yeah, it is, especially in the creative arts, people really struggle with understanding and believing. Like, I'm lucky that people send cards and there's a candle season. But even then, I still have people who will like, oh, you want $25 for this candle? Yeah, because I literally designed the artwork on the label. It is soy. It is hand poured.
The ones that you're buying from Bath and Body Works are $30. You just wait until the one day they're on sale.
And those are toxic. You also have to take into consideration with buying mass market candles that there probably is paraffin wax. And you really shouldn't be burning paraffin wax.
Julia, do you have any other manifestations or lessons? I kind of did our closing out ceremony dirty because I can feel the phlegm rising in my body again.
Yeah. No, I don't. I just, in my general, I just want people to be more understanding and kind.
Yeah. Oh, wouldn't that be something? Yeah, I think.
Stop giving unsolicited advice to small business owners.
So when we were here for Beyonce, I said, I'm taking all the white men off of my Spotify. Yes. And Alrinthia went, that'll be a lot. And I went, I know. And I'm prepared. Because not one of them has proven to me that they deserve my 15 cents per stream.
Yeah, it's probably more like 2 cents, but I understand.
Correct. They still don't earn it.
They still don't own it.
And I think another goal for 2025, just because everything feels so dark and dreary and all of it, and I guess against all odds, I do want to live and be happy. I know that's weird with how often I have suicidal ideation, but could you imagine actually wanting to live and be happy? Even if you are like me, a bed rot person, I think I am just going to start recognizing that the world is full of people who are also living in this awful system with me. And I am appreciative of them that they have a job so I can get one slice of cake at Meijer instead of a whole cake. They're doing something for the single ladies and it's single lady cake and you can get one slice and someone has to cut that.
Yeah, 100%.
So, and it is because I haven't done this and I've moved recently, and in Dayton, I wasn't a big deal in my community, but people knew me in my community because I was going to theaters and I was going to family owned restaurants and I was going to bars that were owned as small businesses. And I was talking to people, and I haven't done it here because of all of my mental hangups about being here. But it's a good goal for 2025 to actually start talking to the people in my community, even though I don't trust them.
Here's what I'm going to add to that. We recently had a restaurant close down in town, and my parents won't stop talking about how upset they are. There's no place in town you can get a decent meal now, right? Like it was a higher end restaurant, locally owned.
An anniversary restaurant, like, ooh, a date night.
Yeah, and they're relocating because where they are, it's a huge lot, and so the church next door offered them a lot of money for the land, and they said, yeah, okay, because money talks. And I said, one, there's other good places that you can eat in town. You just don't want to go downtown, and I understand that. Two, you cannot be upset when a business you love is going out of business and it's been 6 months the last time you were there.
Yeah.
Because that is not sustainable business for the people who own it. We rely on people shopping every single day. So when a business is closing down, that isn't a Joann situation because that is a cluster mess, and not necessarily the fault of the employees. VC bought them in 2011. It is imperative for you to use your dollars in a way that's going to allow local businesses thrive. So I'm this is not a manifestation. This is more of a threat. You don't get to be mad. You're not allowed to be mad if a business that you love, that you haven't patroned in 6 months, is closing down, because they're closing down because you times 1,000 haven't been going in. Sorry.
No, yeah, it's making your purchasing power matter.
Because that's not the only one. Another business in town is like, we're hearing people closing up a lot more now, especially in the restaurant industry. And I'm just like, you have to fucking go. Like, you can't just be sad they're closing. You have to go or they're gonna close. Like, why is this an economy lesson that we don't understand? Okay, now I'm done. I will end with this. Thank you, Natalie, for letting me rage against the machine.
God, the machine needs to be raged against more than ever. It's just, who knew I'd end up this episode being like, I want to live. Like, I think it's news to me. I didn't even say I want to live because I'm worried about who will feed Penelope if I don't. I was just like, I guess I want to live.
Yes, I support this.
All right. If anything, for cheap movie night and free popcorn.
And working towards your professional comedy career.
And working towards my career as a professional comedy writer and or artiste. An artist of comedy, if you will.
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
Do your plugs.
Hello, friends. I'm Julia Washington. As a reminder, I am the owner of Prose and Glow, the facilitator of Jelly Pop's Book Club, and to quote my dear friend, there is no shortage of me on the internet. You can find me on Instagram at the Julia Washington, or if you want to follow the business, at Prose and Glow. You can also find me on TikTok while it is still here, because it's now again available in the Google app and App Store. On TikTok, it's the same, the Julia Washington, and I hope that you feel motivated to reevaluate how you assess your how you spend your dollars. It doesn't have to be with me, but if you decide, based on this conversation that Natalie and I have had, to shop more deliberately in the small business space, that would just make my heart so happy. It would make it happier if you bought some of my shit.
Yeah. And also check your attitude. I'm mostly just mad that people are shitty to small business owners, because I'm like, check your fucking attitude. Like, okay.
I shit you not, the last time I did a market, I had somebody like tell me how I should redesign my cards.
Oh, cute. Listen, when I don't have money and I end up being places where people are hawking their wares, I literally pay them in compliments. And that's all. That is my job. And I look at them and go, wish I wasn't broke. Do you have a card? So when I'm not broke, we can be on to something.
Literally the best feeling when someone's like, I don't have the money now and I'll be back. And then they come back. Oh my God, that person, first class ticket to heaven.
First class ticket to heaven. Have you heard?
Have you heard?
All right. Well, everyone, this is To All the Men I've Tolerated Before. You can find us on the internet at Men I've Tolerated Pod and Natalie K124 on Instagram, and use Natalie K124 on TikTok. I'm also on Blue Sky. I don't know.
I'm also on Blue Sky too. I forgot about that one. It only has 30 million people in comparison to the others.
What? Okay. I can't even fathom that number. I don't even know if I know how to put all the zeros.
TikTok has 160 million.
Okay, I don't. All right. Look us up on the internet. I'm always answering comments, whether or not they're nice. and remember, tolerators, you don't have to smile through anything you're tolerating, including being told that your income is an accessory income. Smiles are for joy.